Do you know how to use global and local converters in your NativeScript apps? I've got a special guest joining me today that's going to show us how to do that coming up in this video. What's going on? This is Alex from NativeScripting.com, where we help you get the advanced NativeScript skills that you need. If you want to learn more about NativeScript, click on the subscribe button and the little bell so you never miss a thing. Alright, so today I've got a special in-depth tutorial from Shiva Prasad, who shipped it to me all the way from New Zealand. Shiva is a NativeScript developer expert, and he's been a regular contributor in the NativeScript forums and on the NativeScript Slack channel. He's about to really blow your mind with some seriously useful tips and tricks on using global and local converters and the difference between them. Check it out.
Hi there, I'm Shiva, and in this video I'm going to teach you all about converters in NativeScript. Converters are special functions that can be invoked using pipe operator in your XML files. So let's see the magic of converters. I have a layout here where I've written two uppercase and I have this text input field and I have this button here. Whenever I type something, it's going to show me what I'm typing here, what's being saved to the model, and when I click on check input, it's going to alert the text directly from the model. So the goal here is whenever I save the text to my model, I want to save it in lowercase. Whenever I display it here, I want to display it in uppercase. So if you think you can do it, go ahead, pause the video and do it. Okay, let's see how we can accomplish this using converters. Let's go to our file here. So as you can see, I have this text field here, which is bound to user input. And just below that, I also have a label, which is bound to user input again. So I'll write a converter here called toUpper, which is just an object which has two methods, which is toView and toModel. The parameter that it takes is the value, which is going to be what the user is typing. So whenever I want to display it, I want to display it in uppercase. So return value.toUppercase. So this first line here says that if the value is not ready, then just return nothing. You can do this or just simply return. Because before the value is bound properly, it usually comes here as undefined. So whenever I'm saving to the model, I want to save it as to lowercase. Okay, so we finished writing our first converter. Let's see how we can use it in our XML. All you have to do is add a pipe to upper. And you also need to bind it properly like this. Whenever you're using a text field and you want to use a toView and toModel converter, you will have to bind it first and then use the converter. So the second one would be with the label. Just do toUpper and save it. Let's see the magic now. So start typing, and you can see that the text is uppercase here, and if I click on check input, it's still in lowercase. That means when I'm alerting it from the model here, it's in lowercase. But when I'm displaying it on the UI, it's in uppercase. Same on iOS. You can see that I could be typing capital, small letter, anything inside the text field, but the converter is doing its job and converting everything to uppercase. When I click on check input, everything is in lowercase inside our model. Of course, this is not a very practical example of how you would use a converter. So let's take a look at another example for converters. Okay, for our next example, we have an application which is a catalog of NativeScript courses on NativeScripting. So we have the title of the course, description, name of the author, and the numbers that you're seeing here are for the difficulty levels. So we want to convert the name of the author to uppercase and the number here to their respective difficulty levels. So The converter that I showed you previously, which was declared up here, cannot be used inside our list view. The reason for that is the converters rely on the binding context of its host, or it should be attached to the global resources of your application. So in this case, if we were to declare the converter here, then it would work, but then we'd have to duplicate the converter for every item inside the list, which is not a good idea. So that's where global converters comes into picture. So for this, I usually create a folder called utils and then create a file called converters. And then I register the converters by calling this require utils/converters in my app.ts. And then in my converters file, I just import from application tns core module/application get resources. And now I can do get resources dot to uppercase is equal to value, just a function, return value dot to uppercase. So here, as you can see, I don't have a to view and to model. That is because by default, if the converter is only a function, then it is considered as a to view method. So whenever you don't want to write the to model part of it, then you can just use a direct function as the converter. So let's use this converter right away. Attach it here to the author, to uppercase. Let's see the result of that. All right. So as you can see, the name of the authors are now in uppercase. And let's also write a converter to convert these numbers into their respective course difficulty levels. Get resources dot course difficulty is equal to value. Basically the same thing up here. And then return difficulty map value. So whenever you get a value here, it will always be in string format. That's why I've used string here. But if you look at my main view model, these difficulties are numbers. So keep that in mind. Whenever you get it, it'll be in string inside your converter. So if it's ready, did I save? Oh, I forgot to use the converter. So let's go here, difficulty, pipe, converter, course difficulty. As you can see now, all those numbers have been converted to their respective difficulty. For the last converter that I'm going to show here now, I'm going to convert this part here, which is displaying the image, to construct the URL inside the converters. Image URL converter, where I'm going to write get resources image URL value if it's the same thing, and instead of this it should be /images/value. And since we're using this converter here, now that should remove any URL that you're trying to hardcode inside your XML file and keep it in one converter area. So that's how I use converter inside this simple application. Now for some more advanced usage, let's take a look at this other application that I've built for you. Here I've built a password checker, which uses a local converter, which checks if user is entering enough characters and whether the password is strong or not. And what it's essentially doing here is when it's saving the password to the model, it's saving it as this encrypted string. And whenever it is giving you the password rating, it's decrypting that string, checking against various rules, and telling if the password is good or not. Let's see how that password checker is working. So in the text field, I'm using this encrypt password converter, which is nothing but a simple local converter, which when sending to view, it sends the decoded information. When sending to model, it sends the encoded information. And for the password security check, I'm just decoding that information here, and then just checking the password against various rules, like if it has lowercase, uppercase, numbers, special characters, whether the password is more than 6 letters, and whether the password is one of these weak passwords. And then based on the score that the password got, I'm giving it different messages. And then I'm also setting a password class, which is a variable in this model, to something. So why this is a local converter is because I need access to this particular view model so that I can change the password class. But I cannot do that if it was a global converter. And I also have to use something like that is equal to this inside the constructor, which is a global variable here, and then use that to set the password class. Otherwise, this wouldn't work because the converter has its own this property. Keep that in mind. Even if you create a simple converter, then it gets its own this value, so it won't have access to your other binding context. So with that, that's how the password checker is working. And next example here is image converter, where I have this. I have some images here. One is someimage.png, another one is profile pic without an extension, and then having this image type here. And if you look down here, image URL converter. First one is a simple image URL converter, which we already looked at, which is just this, converting it to this this URL. The second one is image URL converter with type, where I'm actually taking a second parameter, which can be passed on to our converter like this. It could be passed on as a string, or it could be another variable in your binding context. And you can pass it here like that. And even the input for the converter can be a normal string, which you declare like this, or it could be a variable like that. And if you look at the result, we are getting properly formatted URLs. And the last example I would like to talk about is a date converter, which is one of the most commonly used places for converting dates, where usually your servers would send you ISO strings, which would look something like that. And when you want to show that to the user, you want to format the date to a particular format. So here, if you look at the date converter, it works on Android and iOS. So when I change the date that is getting saved into the model is actually a properly formatted ISO string date. But when it's shown to the user, it's formatted in a nicely viewable, user-readable format. Let's see how this date converter is working. So if you look here, I'm passing a particular format to the date converter, which is just like passing this parameter up here. And whenever you're binding it to the text field, whenever you want to write toModel and toView, both methods inside your converters, you always have to bind it like this. First, write the name of the variable you want to bind to, write a comma, and then write the expression. Okay. So if you look at the date converter, of course, this is a simple date converter. It does not cover all the cases, but then in the toView, it's converting the date from all the ISO format into a normal date. And whenever it's saving it into the model, it's saving it as a date object. Okay, so there you have it. That's how you create NativeScript converters. That's all there is to learn about converters in NativeScript. I hope you enjoyed this video, and all the code for this will be available on my GitHub account. The URL will be in the description. Also, there will be a description to converters documentation on NativeScript docs. And I'd like to thank Alex for letting me be a part of this video. Thanks, Alex. And don't forget to subscribe to NativeScripting for more tips and tricks on how to use NativeScript. Happy NativeScripting.
All right, well, there you go, folks. And Shiva sent me one more tip to add to the end for those of you who stuck around. Check it out.
Converters are chainable, which means you can just go and add another converter like this, and it should work just fine. This is because Converters are pure functions. They just take in a value, apply some transformation on it, and give back the same value. So any number of converters can be chained in NativeScript.
And there you have it, folks. Thank you so much, Shiva, for that awesome tutorial. And I think I speak for everybody here when I say you should do more of these. All right, well, how about it, folks? Which topic should Shiva cover next? Let me know down in the comments below. And make sure you subscribe to this channel and ring the little bell so you get the next tip, trick, and tutorial about NativeScript. I will see you next time.